All right, welcome back, everybody, to episode 4 of Experience Distilled. As always, we've got John Little here, where we have teamed up to help distillers face the headwinds that are facing our industry today. Today, we're going to talk about quality checks, quality assurance. For a craft distiller, quality assurance really just means you're trying to make product of the highest quality and as consistent as possible. So let's jump right into it. John, what are some of the grain or operations or distilling checks that you used in your days as a distiller, making sure everything was good?
So first of all, this episode could be hours, right? So we're trying to think about things that maybe we haven't seen. A lot of people do, maybe in the craft distilling world, or what's in front of mind to them. So one of the things that I think about is you really need to start with your what are your raw ingredients, right? So when you're receiving grain, is one of the first thing that we all talk about, right? When we're talking about grain to glass distillation. So you're receiving the grain. Do you have a grain receipt procedure? Are you checking the grain for any signs of mold or must or mildew or pests? Are you checking the size and quality of the kernel of corn in this, in the instance of corn? One of the things that a really good friend of ours, Jim Rutledge, told us years ago was to take corn, stick it into a glass, small glass, add a little bit of RO water or distilled water onto the corn, and then stick it in the microwave for a little bit, and then you can get a big snootful here, a big smell here, and you can do an organoleptic profile on that corn. What does it smell like? Does it smell like grass and hay? Does it smell like mold and mildew? Does it smell rich and sweet like corn? And so you can tell a lot about that grain just from nosing the grain itself, right? No matter what it is, whether that's corn or wheat or rye or malted barley. Usually the malted barley is coming from a trusted source of provider. Maybe it's not quite as needed, but certainly if you're getting silos of grain or you're getting a super sacks or something of grain, it's really great to have a nice system of quality checks in place there. When it's coming in, are you checking the grist size when it leaves the mill, right? Are you checking your mill? Are you making sure that your mill is working as it's supposed to be? Checking that before it goes into the mash tank. Right? Are you checking all of your temperatures along the way? Are you checking your hold times? Are you writing that down and you're recording that, whether you're doing that manually or whether you're doing that in some distillery tracking software as that product goes to fermentation? Are you checking your pHs every day? Are you checking the temperatures of your fermenter? What other things that can you do with some sort of automatic device? Or are you doing something with just some manual every day? By the way, are you checking your instruments? I have a great story that I could expand on sometime about having pHs that were really off with no product issues, and turns out that my pH meter was bad. So we spent a lot of time chasing our tail trying to find those quality issues. What are you doing in distillation? And we talking about the proof checks. I think most people are doing. You and I talked about that a little bit earlier. But if you run a continuous column, are you checking your base loss? And if you don't have a way to check it, are you sending it off and having someone do that? So, we're trying to give you this giant list of quality controls in a really condensed amount of time. But from the 200 distilleries that you've been in, Donald, and all the people that you go see, what do you think is kind of top of mind? What do you think about all the time with quality control measures?
Yeah, no, great question. The biggest issue that I think distillers need to, of all sizes, need to focus on quality assurance is at the packaging level, right? I tell people, are you doing your proof checks? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. We proof it one time before we put it into the filler. Are you checking it throughout the run? Sometimes when you have these gravity fillers, you get condensation and water, and your proof starts to drop, and the proof in your bottle is going to get out of spec, right? So checking the proof on your bottles throughout the run. One bit of advice that I love to see is actually printing out the most recent cola or the TTB approved label application. Are you putting the most recent label on that bottle? If you're not, and you don't have the right cola, that's going to be a problem, right? So printing out that cola, making sure that it's the right label, getting down to, you know, do you have the right parts to put the label onto the bottle so that you have the right clearance, right? Are you making sure that the bottle is at the highest quality and consistent quality so that when it gets into the box, no one's looking at it? The last thing you want is a distributor or a retailer opening up that package, pulling out that bottle, and then having it not meet your QA standards. So I think take a log, make sure that you're documenting everything, put together a standard operating procedure for checking those proof, checking those label standards, checking those the quality assurances on those bottles so that when you make a bottle, no matter where it goes in your gift shop or distributor or out to self-distribution, you know that the product is the most consistent and meets all of your QA standards. Is there any other checks that you would do, John, at your
No,
distillery?
but I mean, there's tons of them, right? We can spend a lot of time doing it, but it made me think here on the bottling line. The last person on your bottling line is your last line of defense. We are all going to assume that once the bottle is in the case, the quality checks have all been done, whether that's all the way back from grain receipt all the way to, what happened in the bottle. I really like to have someone at the very end of the bottling line who is picky is the wrong word, but someone who sets a high standard for the way things should be. Have they checked to make sure that all of the labels are the same level, that all the fill levels are the same? Have they given a quick inspection onto the bottle to make sure that a piece of cork, if you're using a natural cork, a piece of cork didn't fall off during the when you place the cork? Did none of the capsules are melted through? If you have a capsule that, some of these, obviously these small lines, you've got a branded capsule, maybe it doesn't have the ability to front that capsule. And somebody going to front every single capsule so that when it goes onto the shelf, you make the best presentation that you can. Have they made sure that the fingerprints aren't on the bottle as they move down the line? So that the person at the end of the line is the last line of defense for where you are. You wipe that bottle down, you put that bottle into a case, and you assume once it's in the case that every single thing that you've done, these checks that you've done throughout the time here, that they're all complete. So I always like to have somebody there that gives the final sale. I'd rather have them bring something to me and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And we go, "Oh, don't worry about it. That that label being off by 1 millimeter is not a problem, right? It's fine." Then for somebody that just lets everything pass.
Yep, 100% agree. And I think the more that you can document and give pictures and give, labels and images and, laminate that piece of paper, put it right up on each of the workstation to say, this is what we're expecting as an output, so that someone can have a very quick visual indicator
Yep.
that they've either passed the quality check or they have not. Because it is a balance of both speed and efficiency and also making sure that the quality is top notch. Because
Well, and it made me think of this on, and when you said keep have a bottle, keep a library sample. You should have a library sample of every single batch that you run, in my opinion. Right? So I don't. That's a lot of bottles. It's a lot of bottles to be sitting around if you're a big operation. But you should have a library sample of every single batch that you run, so that if somebody has a complaint, you pull that stuff out. You can test it. You know what's going on. It is invaluable to have that sitting at the distillery, and hey, we know what this tastes like. We know what this is. We've got a sample here in case anybody has an issue of it. It's really important.
yeah, and especially if, heaven forbid, your product gets pulled by the TTB out in the field, and they're have to prove to them you did and document your fill and proof checks. You've filled that product that's maybe it's a blended product or a flavored product that you've met the recipe requirements that are approved by the formula online, and all of your internal quality steps have been checked. Otherwise, they're going to come at you with fines and penalties. So.
That's right.
All right. Well, so that's enough on quality checks. We could talk about that for days and days and days. Hopefully, we've given some nuggets to our distiller listeners. And stay tuned for next time for more tips and tricks.